What is going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. BobbyFi, my man Eric Sheets-Haber, coming off a weird night where we had a game canceled thanks to DraftKings and FanDuel for doing the right thing. Sheets had a nice little night. We'd started recording and talked about it a little bit, but Sheets had a nice little 8th place finish in the 250. He finished 18th in the Mega 8s, the giant, massive tournament. So pretty good night overall. I'm ready to get into this one. Sheets, anything else I left out?
No, that's a good summary. And then just if I'm gonna, keep it real, I got very lucky with the FanDuel cancellation. With the Denver cancellation, because I played the 555 over there, which had literally zero shot at all due to my earlier games. And fortunately, I had Michael Porter Jr. in that lineup, so I got bailed out of that one. Yeah. So let's get into it. I have to say thank you for DraftKings and FanDuel for the free roll. I mean, that's the best I can describe it. I'm not gonna complain about it. It's a big capital outlay by them. Now, I know they can afford and everything like that, but it's a lot of PR, man. It's a lot of money to refund like that. So
absolutely,
good for everybody, honestly.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Toronto, Orlando, because this right off the bat feels like a game we're gonna want to get some investment in. We don't have news on Norman Powell. If he's out, I really think it's going to be hard not to try to play at least one of Lowry, Van Vliet, or Siakam. And even if he plays, I like all three of those guys. And then obviously it opens up potentially, I don't know what they're going to do with their backup guys. We had Terrence Davis for 26 minutes in the last game. I think that's probably reasonable if Powell's out. But I would rank them whether Powell's out or in. Actually, I think Van Vliet and Siakam are. I know they're all good plays anyway, but I still think Van Vliet is my preferred guy. If Powell's in, maybe it would be Lowry or Siakam. But I definitely am interested in all three of those guys, and they'll be staples in my lineups.
Yeah, I think we're going to come right off of the gate kind of disagreeing. I wasn't getting to – I really even whether with him out – actually, I have him in, so – I mean, assuming Powell were in, that's what I had because he was upgraded from doubtful to questionable or something like that.
Yeah, and he very well may play. These guys tend to play through.
I personally, at first look, wasn't really interested in much from Toronto. So we'll see how that goes. So what I'll do is I'll just jump on the easier part. Is that the Orlando guys are all seem to be mispriced, right? So
you don't like Siakam?
I wasn't really a big fan at first glance.
I'll just point out that without Anunoby, I mean, he put up 40 and 55 in the last two games. In this exact matchup, he just put up 55 the other day. I think it's a good matchup for him, and I think without Anunoby there, even with them playing Baines at the 5, just Siakam's going to have more stuff going on. And if Powell's out, I think it really benefits Siakam. But just want to throw that out there.
Okay. All right, we'll give another look. The Orlando guys, Vooch is they don't want to price Vooch up, right? I mean
I don't know why they don't. I don't know what the
I don't quite understand it.
Yeah.
So let me just I do want to change my mind a little bit. Again, I was looking at some. I do like if I'm going to go with the Toronto guys, I do like the big three. I do like Van Vliet, Siakam, and Lowry. And they're fine. I was actually, believe it or not, I was looking at it a little more on FanDuel.
Yeah.
than on DraftKings. That's why I didn't really get it. So far, I was wondering why I didn't really like him at all. That's because I was looking at FanDuel because I had to switch computers. So yeah, so I in second look, I do agree. I like Van Vliet, Siakam, and Lowry. And that's actually presuming that Powell's in. So I guess if Powell's out, I'm going to have to like him anymore. More. So again, so to carry on the momentum, kind of like back to reality here, Vooch at 8,200s is kind of ridiculous, to say the least. But I gotta say, I mean, this is probably one of the lower totals. But all these guys look.
It's not that low. It's not. Well, it's low. It's low. You're right.
Look kind of cheap. I mean, I'll tell you a guy who I play. It's a guy I always get not roped into playing, but just kind of shows up in my lineups, and I never just take him out. Is Kem Birch? I mean, like sometimes he does stuff, sometimes he doesn't, but he always shows up as a decent play. And the other guy that every once in a while I'll play is Gary Clark. and he looks okay. And Cole Anthony and Evan Fournier. I mean, all these guys project to be pretty decent values. So I suppose, like I suppose you're right. Maybe you should do some business this game. But I guess Vooch is pretty much a standout, right?
Yeah, Vooch is the clear chalk play, which I totally agree with. All of the other guys being cheap. Okay, we'll go through them real quick because Gary Clark, I don't like. He can be the lowest fantasy producer ever, but he's gonna have to play minutes tonight, and I don't know. He's one of the guys on my value list. I don't feel good about it. I do like Cole Anthony a little bit. I think the guy I prefer the most over here outside of Vooch is Terrence Ross, and I think Terrence Ross going back to Toronto in this type of matchup. His old place, and I had to do some checking that they got what his career numbers have been since he's gone back there. But and he's not going to Toronto, sorry, even though they're just playing there. But yeah, I guess it does kind of take away a little bit of the sting from it because they're playing no matter what, all their games are in the same place. They actually are two teams that are playing close together. That they're both in Orlando. I still like Terrence Ross though in this game environment with no Eric Gordon. I think he's going to play enough minutes. I like him on FanDuel at 4,900. I like him on DraftKings at 53, and I like Cole Anthony would be my next guy. I don't think I'm going to get to Evan Fournier today personally.
So I guess we kind of skipped over why all these guys were good plays is because I mean you mentioned it was Aaron Gordon is out. Hey, going back before we leave this game, go back to Toronto. If you did have to rank those guys, Siakam, Van Vliet, and Lowry, who would you have the best?
It depends on whether Powell plays or not. If Powell plays, I think I would say Lowry. If Powell doesn't play, I think I would say it's probably still Siakam, but it's just he's. Sorry, I didn't understand. There's my Google.
She didn't understand it, you meant Siakam, right?
Yeah, Siakam. I think it's a slight edge to Siakam for me at the moment. I do like the Van Vliet price and the Lowry price a ton, and sort of, I've got literally like half of these guys in half of my lineups that I've built so far. So it's hard for me to rank them at this moment, but we'll do that later.
So we're going to do what I like doing is I'm from time to time. Sometimes I do it this way, sometimes I don't. So I'm putting in like my best plays, like game by game, and then just see if we can replace one. You know what I mean? Like if this were like the only game, these are probably our best plays. Would be Vooch and Cole Anthony, and then Van Vliet, Siakam, and Lowry. Ross, I didn't. Again, these shooting guys like always just kind of bother me. But
it's weird though because Cole Anthony is like not done it this entire season. And at least with Terrence Ross, we know he has a history of putting up games, and he's small forward eligible, which shooting guard and small forward is a lot weaker than point guard to me today. That's just my personal reasoning why. I also like him in these matchups. I do think Toronto plays still faster than people realize.
All right, you want to go on to wow, it's a good. This some people believe this could be an NBA Finals preview. I mean, it's certainly possible.
Yeah.
Clippers, Brooklyn. So the usual discussion, right? I mean, if all three of them are playing, can you play any of them, right? Between the Brooklyn guys, and always the guy who stands out as the best value usually is Kyrie, right? I'm kind of on that today. I think that Kyrie is the best play of the three, and that's probably the one I would play. All these guys can obviously have a ceiling, but I think Kyrie is my favorite. And then on the and I'm not going to go to any of the ancillary pieces. And then on the Clippers, I have no problem with I presume everybody's going to play this game. I mean, I'll play Kawhi at 92. I mean, remember, this is a terrible defense, this Brooklyn team. So I like both the big guys from Clippers, Kawhi and Paul George. I actually like, I don't know, I think I like Kawhi a little more today than Paul George. And I'm not going to get to any of the ancillary pieces there either. I mean, I think that I think I would play top plays would probably be Kawhi and Kyrie, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's I like Paul George just fine too. A little more reasonable over on FanDuel even, but I think he's good at this price as well. I do think you want to select one of those two guys. I think that maybe on DraftKings Kawhi may be a better play just because they're basically the same price. and he's small forward eligible. So I'd give him a little edge on just that. I also think that Kyrie is definitely the one who seems cheaper, but like I'm not playing Kyrie over Westbrook. I mean, that's never going to happen. So the only way you're playing Kyrie to me is if I'm going to play him with Westbrook. Simple as that. I do think Kevin Durant is interesting. He's shown a lot higher of a reachable ceiling this year, even in games where these guys were playing. And yeah, maybe the price isn't great, but it's not unfair. He's going to score like 50 to 65 most of the time here, but I think they'll probably just wait for another matchup to use him. I'm with you. I'm not really being that into the ancillary pieces. The only guy I would say that is interesting to me kind of is Reggie Jackson. He can thrive in this kind of game environment, and he should play plenty of minutes tonight with the other guards still out. And we have Batum questionable also. So Reggie Jackson could end up seeing the floor for a lot more minutes than he's currently being projected. So I kind of like Reggie Jackson as a long shot play.
I guess we should think about as we go through this slate. I mean, obviously things can change, and we'll get to some pieces a little later maybe, but the slate does not have that much value. I mean, there you can make cases for some people.
Yeah, that's right. But there will probably be some things that will open up.
Yeah. But so if you're gonna try to play guys like like Durant or Harden or Kawhi, even for that matter, or Westbrook, Lillard, you know what I mean? Like it's not gonna be that easy. But we'll see.
Right. I hear you. I mean, yeah, you're looking at the Gary Clarks and the James Ennis, maybe not James Ennis, but Eric Pascal, those kind of guys, if you want to.
Yep.
All right. Memphis, Indiana, you want to start it off?
Yeah. The easy plays for me are on the Indiana side. I like Malcolm Brogdon, and I like my Sheets play. I like Sabonis. Right? So I like Brogdon and Sabonis from Indiana. I wasn't going to get to anybody, any of the secondary pieces over there. And then on Memphis, so do we have to now play like DeAnthony Melton because he had one big game? I don't know. I actually was off of Memphis today. I really didn't like anybody. So you could talk about Memphis if you want.
I've been telling you like everybody about Melton forever. The problem they've got here, and this is the problem for Ja, because I do like Ja. The problem is Melton is really good, and so is Bane. So these guys come in and they couldn't even. People were complaining. They're like, "Oh, Ja can't even play minutes." All this stuff on. I hate. First of all, the most annoying chat thing in the history is when people start complaining about, "Oh, I'll never play Plumlee again. He got 2,000 in the first quarter. He put up 40. You know what I mean, or 39." And they were doing it the other night with Ja. Oh, you can never play Ja anymore because they're just going to rotate him. Look, when your team goes from a tie game to a 25-point lead, you're not going to pull the guys out. You know what I mean? You're not going to pull out Bane and Melton, who led to this ferocious run the other night. And then the game turns into a blowout, so Ja didn't get the minutes. But that's going to happen sometimes with teams. I mean, with every team, but especially with teams with, a lot of really good, they have good guards. They have good backup guards. Tyus Jones also. But I think that for me, just to keep it simple today, would probably be just to stick mostly with Ja in this game. Maybe I'll throw Melton into a lineup or two because it's not just one big game. It's 4 out of the last 6. He's been over 28 fantasy points. Not a good matchup, but yeah, I have a mild interest on this slate. But I think mostly it's going to be just Ja for me. And then somehow, if Sabonis ends up like not being really chalky, that's going to be a mistake. So I think Sabonis is a really strong play on the other side. I don't think I'm going to end up with Jeremy Lamb. It's not the worst. And I don't think I'm going to end up with much Brogdon, but I don't mind any of these guys. They're all reasonable to me at these prices.
Okay, we can move on.
All right, let's move on to a fun one.
Right. So Portland, Washington. Here's my order of things. So I don't think I don't think people realize just really how bad Washington's defense is, right? And I guess people do realize it, and the people do realize that maybe they don't realize how bad Portland's defense is, right? I mean, this is. I mean, you thought that Washington. I mean, for those of you who were watching that Washington Brooklyn game the other day, like, oh my God, this could be like 300 points. And that could happen here. I mean, that could happen here pretty easily, actually. And I don't think either team cares. You know, this is what they both want to play this way. And I think it's going to be a lot of wide open threes, a lot of layups. And there's just a lot of fantasy points out there on a relatively short slate. So I do think that at 10-7, Lillard, I don't think that's enough. I really think that he can, I think he can get 80 fantasy points today. I really do. I think that 9,100 on Westbrook's a colossal joke. I mean, I think that if he's even, if he has like an average game, he scores 60 in this matchup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think Beal is too cheap too for this matchup. Now everybody can't get there, right? Or can they? I don't know. But I just am gonna find it difficult to not have something. You know what I mean? I think sure you could play. I mean, Lillard and Westbrook together, it just makes you could do it. And it's one of those things that I know you're spending $20 million to make it work, and you're going to have to like make some uncomfortable decisions elsewhere. But I mean, those guys they get it rolling. I mean, Lillard and Beal, Lillard and Westbrook, any of those combinations, probably Lillard and Westbrook, probably my favorite. I mean, that could, what can that get? 175 fantasy points? You know what I mean? Like, not really, but it can blast, man. So I'm into it, I guess. It's all going to be popular, I think, too. Maybe Lillard won't quite be as popular because of the price, but I think Westbrook's got to be huge chalk. I mean, it just has to be.
I mean, but by the way, why wasn't he the other night against Brooklyn? I don't like.
Because I'll tell you why. Because people thought that he was on limits and that he wasn't that healthy. Where are they
getting that information from? Like,
well, you didn't ask if it was accurate.
Yeah.
You asked why it was the case, right?
Yeah.
And now the thing that might get some ownership here, and we have to talk about it, is this freaking Nasir Little garbage. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's starting and he's coming off a 5 million fantasy point game, right? And he's got these 3,100 on a slate with no value. It's good. I instinctively don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Because we could have done it the other day and we didn't. What's the difference?
Well, let me explain though. Also, he played in a game they lost by 35 points.
Okay.
This was not like a regular. We shouldn't have as many. But if he is going to start and he's 3,100 in this matchup, that's good enough for me.
Okay.
That's just the way that I'm looking at it. I mean, I do think that the blowout obviously helped him, and it's not like they were playing. I don't know. It was a monster blowout of a game.
Well, the other guy I like, you brought him up before, is Cantor. So I like Lillard, Cantor, and I suppose Little. And then on the Washington side, I just wanted to look really quickly to see if I like anything else. No, not really. I'm just Beal and Westbrook.
Yeah, I don't mind Hachimura on FanDuel on 4,700.
Okay. I didn't look there.
Not the worst play in the world.
Yeah.
I do think Bradley Beal is more in play than maybe people are talking about. So I think he gets to be sort of the odd man out, and he definitely has a ceiling. I don't think look, you can probably get away with playing he and Westbrook together, but you're not going to get the absolute ceiling out of both. Like for 70, Westbrook's probably just getting 50.
Yeah.
But I do think Westbrook is. I don't know exactly. I think he's a good play on both sides. I don't mind him at 10K on FanDuel also to play with Lillard. Don't have as much Lillard as you do. 10-7. Again, if you're playing Lillard, you're gonna probably find yourself in Nasir Little. He's gonna have a lot of ownership, Lillard, and I'm not sure if I quite buy that he's like 10 fantasy points better than these other guys who are in the low nines. And if he's not 10 better than them at 1,600 more, then I'm not really that interested. I don't feel worried about him getting 60 tonight. I do feel worried about him getting 80.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But who's better than him? Except for the Washington guys, who I'm going to probably play him with.
The combination of Vucevic and Gobert is better than him.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe you're right. Okay. You want to move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
So this is where you get some fishy value, which I'm probably going to get sucked into for lack of anything else. So Golden State, Boston, you're going to be getting Eric Pascal at 3,500, who is going to be, I feel as though unless between him and Little, I think they're getting a lot of ownership between the two of them. And it's fishy. He's burned people before, but he burned them starting. Maybe coming off the bench, he won't quite be as burning. I think it's fine. He's like the best. He's best I got, sort of. The other one you could play is someone I brought up a couple of slates ago. You could try Kevin Looney at 3,400. He's another guy who's showing up as a value, and then Draymond at 4,900. I'm not going to get to Curry today. For me, it'd be one of those three value dudes. And on Boston, I hear that FanDuel's a little different. I got to look at that. But on DraftKings, for me, it's pretty trivial. It's just Jaylen Brown and Tatum. I think they both look fine. And it, runs across the question, can I play? I think the answer is yes. I was about to say, can you play one of those guys without playing Curry? I think so.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown, really interesting. Did you know that he was only small forward eligible now?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
It was weird.
On DraftKings, only small forward.
I just noticed it today. I didn't notice.
Oh, okay. So I like him a lot. So there's him, Tatum, and then the fishy value for Golden State.
Yeah, Kemba on FanDuel at 5,700 is kind of silly.
Oh, okay.
I would consider Kemba over there. I give Brown the edge over Tatum, but I like both of them. I think they're both a little bit, I won't say too cheap, but they should have quite a role still. Kemba still hasn't played over 28 minutes. I still like him at 5,700 on FanDuel, not on DraftKings. It also does make the matchup better for Curry, like the fact that Kemba's out there. So
on FanDuel also, since you led me over there, I'm just staring at it. Pascal and Draymond and Oubre's pretty good on FanDuel also at 5,500.
Yeah, all of these guys seem a little just too cheap, but we just got to keep in mind that it's kind of everybody feels a little bit too cheap today. That's the reason why I don't agree about the Dame play. Like, he's the only one who doesn't feel like he has to put up 60. Like, I don't think he has to put up 60. You know what I mean? I do feel like Luka most nights, if the game's close, he's going to put up 60, and same thing with Giannis most nights. Yeah, I think Pascal is like definitely one of the value guys I like. He actually is pretty active. He does a lot while he's in the game, but it's not the most exciting play in the world. I don't mind a little bit of Looney. I don't like the center using the center spot, but Draymond, I guess we can go back to him again and just never ever get there for us. But he is 4,900 and he's going to play 30 minutes, and that's pretty much where I'm at. It's just I don't love any of the spot for any of these guys on Golden State. I just like the prices, and I think if I had to rank, I'd have Draymond very slightly ahead of Oubre. I wouldn't be playing Wiggins, and I don't think I'm going to end up getting Curry.
Hey, let's talk about this Golden State thing a little more. For those of you who didn't know, the reason why, I guess one of the reasons why that Looney is going to pop and probably get some ownership is that Wiseman is out.
Same with That's the reason Pascal's popping too.
Okay, but like they I mean, what are they going to do if they at the 5?
They don't need to do anything at the 5 against Boston.
They don't need to.
No, there's Boston will play two big guys, but they don't play big. Then they're not. There's no side. There's nothing. You're not trying to stop Tice in the post. You're not trying to stop Tristan Thompson in the post.
Tristan Thompson could have a good game today.
He never. I mean, he's like literally. I feel like he's like faded out of the rotation.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, he's looking at the minutes. He's tempting at 3,800 or 3,900 on DraftKings, but I just.
But even if Looney plays, I mean, what's he going to play? 20 minutes?
You can play 24 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing because you could make the argument that Thompson's the better play there. I could see that. But Robert Williams has also been getting run. Robert Williams, if you tell me he's going to play 20 minutes, I'd be in on Robert Williams ahead of these other guys. But they just seem to rotate the minutes between Tice, Thompson, and it seems to be Tice is the favorite one these days.
What do you like? Do you like Draymond or not much?
He's fine. Yeah, I'll take shots on him anytime he's this cheap, but it's not like fun.
But he never really smashes anymore, right? I mean,
he just doesn't anymore. I mean, he's put up a few nice 30 games. I don't think it's hard for him to get to 30.
Yeah.
We'll take 30 out of 4,900. I just don't feel like thrilled about it.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, let's do a Detroit, Utah.
Yeah, so this one I did actually look ahead a little bit because there is a FanDuel DK semi discrepancy here. So first of all, on DraftKings, Rudy Gobert is still criminally underpriced. Maybe even more so now. He's 7,200 against Mason Plumlee, right? I mean, like he's 7,200, and I guess the only real risk here of not getting 40 fantasy points is a blowout. You know what I mean? How does he not get 40 fantasy points? I don't know. It's possible, I guess, but he's only 7,200. Other guys on Utah, Conley, I guess, is fine, but for me, it's definitely going to be Gobert. On Detroit, on DraftKings, well, I mean, I guess he's good on both, but he's definitely better on FanDuel. But Jeremy Grant is 7K on DraftKings, but he's got like nothing on FanDuel, right? Actually, that's not that big egregious. Okay, he's 6,800. I thought he was a little cheaper than that.
Yes,
but
it's really good. But it's not his position that like you feel like you have to play these other things. So he actually does make sense of it. I see what you're saying.
Right.
So point out the Jeremy Grant thing. This is the important thing that everybody should try, and this is how you get ahead of the curve on these things.
Okay.
Jeremy Grant, all the numbers and everything was real. In those games, one of Blake, one of Rose, often both of them weren't playing.
Interesting.
DeLon Wright also wasn't playing the minutes that he's playing now. So he was playing some minutes, but if he was, it was usually because Rose and what's his name were gone. And you got other guys like Sadiq Bey, who was playing 25 minutes, who's now playing 5 minutes. So Jeremy Grant had all the usage in the world. Now you've got Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose, and him splitting up the usage basically. In the last games with all them back, his usage has been 19, 18 the last 2 games, 25, 23 before that, which is good. But we're talking about a guy who was 28 through 32 for a lot of the early part of the season. And that's a big, big, big difference. So this price thing might actually make more sense. I also really worry about this game getting out of control. Like Utah tends to play a lot of blowout. They tend to blow a lot of people out. And Detroit is the kind of team that doesn't seem like they would mind getting blown out. That worries me a little bit. But I do think that if you do, I mean, on the flip side of the Plumlee thing, while he might get in foul trouble and limited minutes that way and all that, he is 5K and they're going to probably play him until he fouls out against Gobert. And it's he's, look, he just 2 of his last 3 games, 34, 39. We'd love that, at 5K. So just consider him. I do like Jeremy Grant still a little bit. I just don't think that it's like when you think about Jeremy Grant, and he's, I know he's like 800 cheaper, but like Jeremy Grant versus Jaylen Brown, I feel better about the Jaylen Brown situation than I do Jeremy Grant. But that 800, if it really matters, then Jeremy Grant's fine. I just think that the other guys are a little bit better if you just step up or down a little bit. And then I love Gobert, but I do worry about the blowout. I still think in a blowout, he still smashes. I think he just crushes for the whatever time he's in there. And I think that my next favorite play is actually Jordan Clarkson. I think that no one will play him and that he won't project quite as well. Well, maybe he'll get played actually, but he won't project quite as well because we've got Mitchell back and everything. Especially if this game turns into a blowout, he might be the one who's leading that blowout charge, and it feels like the right kind of spot against a team that doesn't really play defense. And obviously Utah at home and the altitude and all that stuff. I just feel like I could see Clarkson getting it going tonight and taking over with that second unit.
You want to go? Want to go to FanDuel?
Yeah. I want to point out one more thing. I know it doesn't matter because we don't have the same things as usual. Derek Favors, since he left Detroit, has always had big games against Detroit. I'm not going to play him. I'm just throwing that out there.
Who's had big games?
Derek Favors against Detroit.
That's definitely interesting.
It's weird. He always does. I mean, it's his old team. It made some sense to me before when it was against guys he used to play against like Drummond and stuff in practice. But now it's doesn't make as much sense. But just throwing it out there. It's a weird small slate.
Okay, let's you want to do position by position over at
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So for me at point guard, I agree. Well, I agree with you that. Well, I still think Lillard's the best play, but aside from that, I agree with you that Kemba's is is really, really just super duper cheap over here.
Can I do a small luxury thing that I think is kind of important? Just about salary, about why Kemba's price, because about Lillard's price. So it's not just Lillard's price. First of all, there's the obvious that it's his price in relation to the prices of the other players. That's one thing. Okay. The other thing is that you're talking about 10.2 out of a 60K salary cap versus 10.6, 10.7 out of a 50K salary cap. Now you do get one more player on FanDuel, but still, that player's not going to be 9,800 or 90 whatever 100 the most part. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just think it's important to remember when you see guys who are the same price on both sites, they're actually cheaper on FanDuel.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
However, but what you'll also see, by the way, is you'll be able, and again, it's all relative value too, because you're going to be able to make that same, not to say argument, but you'll find a lot of that on FanDuel. You'll find a lot of guys that say, boy, this guy's much, really cheap on FanDuel, but there's a lot of guys that'll be cheap on FanDuel. Mm-hmm. So it'll be a question of who's cheaper, than the other guy on FanDuel. Yep. But I do like Kemba, and if you want to use another cheap guy who I brought up earlier is Cole Anthony at 5K. I like him. And then if you wanted to pay up and somewhere in the middle, I like Brogdon. So those are my main plays over there.
Yeah. Interesting. I like the Brogdon one. My main guys are going to be Anthony, Kemba, Lillard, Westbrook. I'll play him over here where he's not going to be owned. And I like Ja, Lowry, and Curry a lot, but I probably am going to end up siding with Lowry amongst all those guys.
Well, I love Westbrook, man. You really think he's got a shot to outscore Lillard 1-1, huh?
No, you just play Lillard and him.
No, I know I got you. I'm just kind of like.
No, I think first of all, of course, I think he has a shot to outscore him 1-1. But I also think that the more likely thing is that you try and get the points out of both of them.
Right.
If you're playing Westbrook on.
You play both of them?
Oh, on FanDuel, it's super. You can always
find out. You can always play both. Oh, easily. Kidding?
On FanDuel, most days.
Dude, look at this. Like without even seeing who I have in the center spot.
Yeah, you're done.
You see, I have 4,600 left in these 4 spots, which I could fill.
Yeah.
So you figure who am I underpaying for in center? I got Vooch in there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it easy.
FanDuel is definitely the 2 to 3 superstar a night site. The guy who I should mention though, and we should have mentioned him on DraftKings also. I don't think you're going to get to much of him on FanDuel, but Anthony Simons, the minutes have been really secure with these guys gone, and Carmelo's sort of fading out of the rotation even with Little. I know it was a blowout the last game, so don't take all of Anthony's numbers from just the last game. But even though the numbers weren't great the 2 previous games, he was playing 28 minutes, and then he did have that one really big game. He's another potential source of cheap value at 4.3. He's playing like 28 minutes, but he keeps projecting for like 24. Just throwing it out there.
Boy, oh boy, shooting guard is just super sneaky. I mean, there's a zillion different things you could do. I mean, honestly, I'm like there's literally nothing that jumps out as a standout. I mean, there's just so many guys that are close for me. I mean, if you want to go points per dollar or whatever, and the guy you mentioned before, I guess Terrence Ross, at 4,700. But as I mentioned, like no one's a must play here. You could go all the way up to Beal if you want. Maybe it's something that a lot of people might not do. Mm-hmm. That's one thing you could do. Or if you wanted to go up to your Paul George, you could certainly do that. And then Terrence Ross is the one value guy. The other value guy who we didn't mention, and we mentioned Dylan Brooks a little bit. You did on FanDuel. Another guy who you played, I'll get your opinion on, is you could try Jeremy Lamb at 5,300. So I didn't even mention Jordan Clarkson. I'm telling you, like shooting guard, you could play just a lot of guys. You have any preference over here?
Yeah, I like Terrence Ross, and I like Paul George as my favorites. And then there's a lot of other guys. I don't really like any of them, so that many of them. I like overpaying for Van Vliet. That's something I'm considering. Is he really 8,800? Wow, I think it was 83.
That's rough.
That's a little trickier. Let's see who else. I mean Donovan Mitchell, totally reasonable play. I mentioned I like Clarkson, but I think Ross and Lamb are my 2 favorites, and I'm sorry, Ross and George are my 2 favorites. Lamb is okay, but I don't love him.
Small forward for me, I'm not going to pay all the way up to Jaylen Brown at 8,700 today. It's usually much fairer priced on.
Yeah, they've been
on
raising him on
FanDuel.
FanDuel.
And I also don't think, although he's a little more reasonable, even if Powell's out, I don't know if I'm going to get to Siakam. I probably would find a way if I was going to pay up to find Kawhi, if you want to know the truth. But and you kind of scared me off him a little bit, but just based on what I see right now, it's Jeremy Grant. And the other guy I'll mention, and this guy I haven't had a lot of luck with, but I always feel he's got that kind of activity upside is Kelly Oubre. So my middling guys are Jeremy Grant and Oubre. And I don't think, oh God, Nasir Little 3,500.
Like I'll take some shots with Nasir Little.
I guess. Right?
I'll take some shots with Josh Jackson from Detroit.
Ooh.
There's one you could potentially make some money on, even in a blowout or whatever. His minutes are going to fluctuate all season long, and they've been oddly, strangely consistent because he's been pretty good. He doesn't need to do that much to get you there. He can get you 28 fantasy points. He can probably get you a little more if he gets things really going, even in a blowout. I still think Ingles is cheap enough to take it to play him. Nasir Little, I'm obviously, like I said, I can take some shots. I have some interest in Jeremy Grant, even though I am worried. Same thing with Oubre. I don't like this position. So maybe when that happens, Sheets, like you can take shots on the value. I think Rui Hachimura is an interesting value potentially. But I think mostly what I would probably do is just, maybe do what you said, is try and find a way to get up to Kawhi.
Yeah.
I like that a little bit, actually.
Hold on. Let me just, so power forward is another one, which is a little fishy. So paying up Sabonis and Tatum, I guess, but I guess Draymond, we talked about him at 4,900. It's just a shit show, right? So the value guys are, I'll put them in here. So it's Pascal again. If you not Pascal Siakam, Pascal and Draymond, that's where your value is coming from. And I don't know if it's worth paying all the way up for Tatum and Sabonis. I don't know. Other guys maybe we didn't mention, Brandon Clark, Blake Griffin. I don't know. For me, it's going to be now you're scaring me off him. But I mean, I get decent games out of Draymond, but do I get what I need?
Yeah, I think today, like, we don't really like the position very much. I think he's fine to play today.
Okay.
On FanDuel, I think I like him a lot better because I don't love this.
Maybe we should play Sabonis.
Maybe we should just play Xavier Tillman, by the way.
Oh, no.
All this guy does is put up, no, look, Cheats, let's listen to this game since they put it in this spot. 21, 28, 33, 25, 26, 33. He's good. He can play. It's weird. Eric Pascal makes a lot of sense for the savings. Covington and I would prefer Draymond over Covington, but they're both in consideration for me. I thought Harry Giles would get more of the blowout run the other night against Milwaukee.
Oh, but we were right on what's his name last night.
Who was that?
The Portis.
Oh my God, man! I know. I actually think that the Boston guys are kind of in play here. Both Tice and I think I would prefer Tice over, with 700 at 700 more. But I think that they're both like a little bit in play. I don't know if I'm gonna end up getting there. I just don't really love any of that. I honestly feel like I'm gonna have to I'm waiting to see what happens with power forwards later in the day. Because I've got other than Sabonis, who I feel good about, I don't feel great about locking in Pascal. I don't want to switch and pivot over to a ton of Gary Clark, but I'll probably throw one lineup or two. It's just, it feels like a gross position, like the last one to do. But I think that like we said with small forward, maybe what you do is you just play the best play, and that's Sabonis, I think.
Yeah.
If you can. All right, you ready to talk about centers?
Yeah, it's Vooch, no?
It's Vooch, and he'll be the make a chalk. So if you want to get different, you can play Cantor, Plumlee, or really get different, you could play Gobert.
I'll throw another one in.
Sure.
Miles Turner.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I think it's mostly going to end up being Vooch and Cantor for me. I just see it going that way.
No, I have got these guys pretty similar, Cantor and Turner, and one of, I think Cantor will be much higher owned, no? Much higher, I don't know.
Yeah, he probably will be a little. That's a good point. Yeah, it's true. I think he has more of a ceiling for the most part when everybody's playing than Miles Turner does. But actually, Miles Turner can go out there and block like 8 shots in the game. So I don't know. Maybe that's not even right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's a good. I like that play. I think on FanDuel, Miles Turner actually is probably just about as good of a play because he will block. He'll occasionally, especially against this kind of. Maybe Miles Turner is the way to go. Okay, I'm gonna have Turner maybe ahead of.
When you play Westbrook and Lillard together, you just have a freaking. You just throw the remote whenever Beal takes a shot, right?
Well, not if Westbrook passes it to him.
That's true.
Well, and he passes it to him, and then he goes and gets the offensive rebound for a putback. That's what ends up happening with Westbrook. I mean, it's crazy. And I by the way, I just want to say about that game, why Washington is in desperation mode right now with the way they started the season. Westbrook's only played 9 or 10 games because they've only played however many. They played less than everybody in the NBA, I think. They're really trying to win these games. That comeback against Brooklyn the other day was pretty incredible, and I think they're going to put their best foot forward. So I think you can give the Beals and Westbrook they're going to dominate the ball, they're going to dominate the shots, and they're going to probably play.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, you play Showdown or something like that.
Yeah,
you could play Bertans.
Yeah, and by the way, okay, so I don't even know what he ended up with the other night. I actually did kind of like Bertans. I think he's still because he can always get hot.
Yeah.
Ish Smith was unbelievable the other night.
It's amazing, right?
And with Westbrook and Beal and all that, but I don't think we can go do it. I just want to throw that out there. But yeah, it should be a fun night. I actually am excited about some of these games, especially the Portland, Washington, and the Clippers, Brooklyn.
That's the one that's going to get canceled, right? The Portland, Washington.
Get out of here, Sheets. Don't say stuff like that. Get out of here. All right, guys, I think we're pretty much there. I'm just going to real quick go through my highlighted players. Lowry, Van Fleet, Siakam, one of the 3, maybe sometimes 2 of the 3. Depends on Norman Powell. Vucevic, Little, Pascal, PG, or Kawhi, one of the 2. Prefer a little bit PG on FanDuel, Kawhi a little bit on DraftKings, although I'm sort of evening on FanDuel now that we see how bad small forward is. Gobert on DraftKings, one of the best plays for me on the slate. Sabonis on both sites, but especially on FanDuel. And those are my core guys.
I have a so before we say get out of here, I mean, we talked about this, by the way.
What's that?
Before that there is cancellation risk involved every single slate. And look, I know this sounds kind of weird, but there was an 8:30 game last night, and then there was a 9 o'clock game, right? And the game was, the 9 o'clock game was canceled like 8:55 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that if that game were canceled at like 8:35, there'd be no refunds, even though it would have changed nothing. Even though it would have changed nothing, even though it just there was nothing to swap to, they would. I think for some reason they'd be like, well, you got, only because the announcement was made 2 minutes before or whatever. Even though it didn't change anything. So you always do have to consider, man. I don't want to turn into like we did in baseball, right? Where we were actually like doing we were counting which baseball team had sat out already. So who was the next team that we thought was going to have to sit out? We were following George Hill's Instagram, for basketball to see when their team was going to be sitting out or whatever. I don't want to turn into that, but the very least, I mean, if where it used to be that I would prefer these late games because of flexibility.
Yeah, it's turning the other way.
It's turning a little bit the other way, man. So you got to be so like tonight for example, like there are 2 games at least. So if let's say something happens at 9:30 where like all like the Golden State chalk gets ruled out, you're not going to be able to complain. You know what I mean? Like it's because then then all of a sudden Mason Plumlee will end up being chalky for Detroit or something like that.
Yeah, it will happen.
Or Sadiq Bey or something.
No, right, exactly. You'll just take a prayer.
So just be careful. Now again, it's from a late swap perspective. It's nice. You have these 2 10 o'clock games that you could And I'm definitely gonna be able to do that. So if my 8 o'clock games, 7:30 games are lacking, so to speak, you could certainly do stuff in these later games to juice up your or unjuice your lineups.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, guys. Well, hopefully we get all the games to play tonight, and hopefully we see one of you guys up at the top of the leaderboard. Sheets for anything else before we get out?
No, so tomorrow's a big day because tomorrow I already know is a huge basketball slate.
And golf, yeah.
Also golf.
Yeah.
So everybody buckle up. Make sure you win tonight because we're gonna have to be spending money tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, good luck to everyone out there, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboard.